Welcome back to Franchise Hockey Manager 11 with the Philadelphia Flyers. Beginning of the 2028-2029 season, and Detroit, our favorite to win this year, led by Evan Bouchard. Also, Vancouver Canucks, who ended up winning last year, are also projected to win this year as well. Top three with them, and Buffalo, led by Dahlin, are also expected to do well. Ottawa, surprisingly, looks like they are the dark horse. Again, we never get mentioned in this, but it always is nice to see it. We'll show you quickly what we end up doing with transactions, but first we'll get to the draft and kind of see how well we end up doing for that, and then we'll take a look at our depth as well. So for this season, we ended up trading away some picks. So we did get Simon Martin, not too bad of a player. Just looking at his stats currently, he has 2.5 stars. He can obviously improve from that, but already playing as a shadow, does look like he could be very versatile, at least in terms of counterattacking. I know it's not ideal to end up getting him with your first round pick, but already at 18 looks pretty good. He was projected to actually be a 5th overall. We managed to sneak him in the 30th. So already everything's looking pretty good for that. We then end up getting this guy, quite a mouthful, playing in the SMH. Doesn't look too great, but his determination is good. So he should develop over the next course of time, and aggression's good as well. So that should be pretty good. Not ideal anything in terms of what he can do, but looks more of like a enforcer kind of grinder type player, but we managed to grab him in the 3rd round, also projected to be an early pick. We managed to get him with one of the trades that we ended up making. We definitely need kind of a grinder as well. We did end up getting Vladimir Lavrov, currently in the WHL. 7 points already in 3 games, so that does look pretty good. We'll look at his profile here, and does look like he should be versatile in almost any area that we need. So whatever he ends up developing is what we'll end up playing him as. The only thing that I don't think is that I don't think he'll play center, considering he is terrible at faceoffs. Agility is pretty decent, and I'm hoping that most of his physicals end up improving over the course of time. But currently 18, and I do think that I misread where he was projected to go, but he was projected to go the 87th. I thought I read the 12th, so I kind of jumped on it a little bit prematurely. But like I said, I always kind of use those as references. But 3rd round is definitely where you end up taking a shot anyways. For the other 3rd round pick, we end up getting Gazdag from Slovakia. Lefty, and I mainly got it because he's also 6'2" and 217, so doesn't look like anything really stands out here. He wasn't projected to do too great. Projected to be around 75th pick, so we did get him at a little bit of a discount, but hopefully he can produce over the course of his training there. 0.5 stars though, so not necessarily ideal to start right away, but we don't need anyone to kind of start right away. We end up getting Simon Saranac as well. Only a 2-star, but 190. We end up getting him at 203 in the 7th pick, so nothing to really write home about for that one. And then Adam Kelly is the other guy that we end up getting. Plays in the OHL, currently 20, so it's probably one of his, might even be his last year in the OHL. Nothing really stands out, but kind of average. If he ends up developing, then that's obviously great for us. Up and down winger, and he wasn't really projected to do anything. I think we kind of just grabbed him at the end because he was the best player and the best player available. So that is that for that. We'll look at some of our transactions that we managed to do. I know not everyone's going to agree with them, but it's definitely what we end up having to do for the long term. So we ended up getting rid of Noah Cates, and I don't even know how to say this name, but the guy that we ended up getting as a free agent at the end of last year. So not too bad. We ended up getting him for a 3rd, which was Lavrov and Saranac. Lavrov could end up being someone decent. Then we ended up getting rid of Farabee as well. Farabey's very good, but I have to take a look at our depth, and we will definitely need that spot sooner rather than later. And his contract is around 7 million, so ideally we would have kept him, but for a third round pick, we could still manage to get a decent prospect for that. I was going to look at trading him for a player, but I mean it's not ideal for us. We did end up keeping Forster instead. Forster is more of a defensive player, anyways. I do like the fact that he is kind of a two-way, more so than anyone else. So we definitely need a decent amount of defensive players, but his contract is around 5 million, so 2 million less and around 3 years less. So I will take that all day. We could easily get rid of him when there's 2 years left of his contract, and even just kind of take that hit if we have to, because we do have Viktor Fyodorov coming in, and same thing with Surin should be able to come in as well. Eklund, we end up sending away for this year. I think he can still play right wing as well. He does shoot right, so he could easily slot into where Forster is. Powell's going to end up starting the season with us as well. I don't think we end up having to sign him, but I decided to do it a little bit earlier than what we necessarily needed to. But it does look like he could be kind of a power forward and an up and down winger. Maybe he develops a little bit more defensively. And Tobias Kristen is also going to play with us as well. His hitting's pretty good. He's good at getting open and his passing, but again, he's not really a role player quite yet. I could easily see him just playing a couple games with us before he ends up getting sent down. I feel as though Ethan Zata will end up playing for us a little bit more than what he did last year. I think as soon as there's one injury, a lot of these players will kind of come up and kind of show their stuff. Prudhomme starting in the AHL this the beginning of the season, and same thing with Alphonse Frey. He did play a little bit last year and did do pretty well, but Spencer Gill we end up extending as well. So we'll take a look at some of the extensions that we end up doing and look at our cap situation. So our cap situation looks pretty healthy, and it's the first year of Demidov and Michkov, their contracts really kicking in. Barkey, we still got a discount for just under 3 million. Misa, we then extended for next year, and for the next couple years for 3 million. So I think we're really going to kind of eat away at that. That is just a fantastic contract if he does end up playing more often than not. But it's going to look pretty good, at least for the next couple seasons, if he can manage to even get to 3.5 star potential. It should be pretty good. Terrence Smith, we still have for 2 more years there at the league minimum, and then Svozil, we might end up extending over the course of the season if he kind of plays into that contract. I'll know within 10 games whether or not he's going to end up sticking with us for next year and the year after. But I do think Prudhomme might end up outseating him as well. We did get Spencer Knight for a 3-year extension after this one, so around 7 million, and then we got Kolosov for 4 million. It's a bit too much to spend for 2 goalies, so one of them is going to go probably next season, probably early next season, depending on how well they produce. We could even get rid of Kolosov throughout the season as well, just because we do have Carson kind of chopping at the bit to end up starting. And if I end up seeing that Kolosov is struggling slightly, we might end up offloading him just to develop Carson just a little bit. So we'll jump to the beginning of the season, look at our roster for it and what lines we're deciding to pick. Barkey's going to be on the second line. Benson currently on the third, but I feel as though that might end up switching anyways. And then Tippett on the top with Luchenko and Michkov, Demidov, Ripkin, and Barkey. So the 2 Russians there are going to play together. Frost is now our third liner for sure for center, and then Stenberg's going to start on the 4th line with Powell and Misa. Svozil and Bonk getting his debut seasons for us, and then Sanheim and Gill are going to be our second line with Smith and Drysdale on the top. So we'll end up probably adjusting it closer to the regular season and kind of play the next couple games and see how well we're gelling and what the season is going to kind of look like, at least early on. And hopefully we can avoid the injury bug on the later stretch of the season. But I don't think we typically end up playing so much at the very beginning. I know last year we ended up getting a couple games out of the way early, whereas a lot of the other teams didn't end up playing yet. But we do face off against Utah as being our first team and our first test of the season, away from home as well. But that will be in a couple seconds, anyways, once it ends up loading. But so far, no serious injuries in the preseason, and that is a good start for us. I don't think we're going to monitor Knight's starts throughout this. I think he ended up kind of proving last season that he is definitely the person that we want to start. Unless Kolosov ends up kind of showing us something that we didn't know. Does look like Sutherland's going to end up starting instead of Bonk to start the season, but everything else kind of looks the same. We might switch this off at the beginning and kind of see how that works out throughout the season. 4-1 loss, and I mean we have the other Aginla, but Taj Aginla ends up scoring. Luchenko gets his first. Demidov ends up getting assists, and so does Drysdale. But Cooley and company definitely making us look bad to start the season. Second game on the road is against Chicago, and I don't think Bedard is going to make it that much easier. First overall pick, and then a second overall pick is who we're going to end up playing against. So, going to be a bit rough, that's for sure. Then we end up facing Detroit, which Detroit's also favored. So we could easily start this season off 0-3. And we don't, thank God, 9-3 win. Blackhawks 0-2. Tippett gets his first. Michkov gets his as well. And Rybkin, Tippett, and Rybkin again before Michkov, Sanheim, Gill, and Frost all getting on the score sheet early. Always like getting those goals out of the way. Definitely means that they have a better chance at getting more in the future. I do know that Michkov did start last season off slow, but did manage to pick it up towards the later half of the season. Hopefully that's not what we have to deal with now. He's virtually non-existent in the postseason. I think that's one of the reasons why we got knocked out when we did. Did look like he was going to start to turn it on towards the end, but I mean, there's nothing you can really do in the conference finals if your star player isn't producing. I think Leafs fans know that oh too well. Facing off against Detroit, 5-3 win, so that hopefully that's signs of things to come. Luchenko with his second, Demidov with his first, and then Aginla, Joe and Ginla, and then Terrence Smith and Forster all getting on the score sheet there. We start off 2-1, and Detroit Red Wings are 3-2, so not really what you would expect from the favorites. Just going to put that out there. We do face off against Tampa Bay, and I mean Tampa Bay's 2-1-2, so even the other division doesn't look too threatening, I will say. Keep the same players that we ended up doing for the game before. We win 6-5 in overtime. We end up going down 4-0 in the first before Drysdale, Misa, Michkov, and Creston getting his first. Before Stenberg getting his first. Not too bad. 3 points in 4 games so far. And then Rybkin with the lone goal for the shootouts. Does bump us up to first place and then immediately down, but we do have a couple games at hand against the Rangers, so we should be able to manage to get our top spot soon. We do get a rematch against Utah, our only loss so far, and that is interesting. What would you want for him? I mean, they're willing to deal him pretty easily. Already to start without anything, they'd be willing to get this guy. But like I said, I like Barkey. There's no way that I'm going to do that. So facing off against Utah, let's see if we can manage to get things started. Demidov now on the left wing there. Barkey getting dropped down to the third line. We'll end up playing this one. Let's see if we can get another win. 5-3 loss, so back-to-back losses against Utah's. Not on my bingo card. Barkey and Luchenko getting goals and Kristen as well. But Logan Cooley being a little bit too much for us puts us down to 3-2. Drysdale with 7 assists. Pretty good. I don't know why he's deciding now all of a sudden to start showing up for that. But Kolosov also in the save percentage and goals against. That's pretty good. He did start it off last season as well. But I think maybe him hearing that we're considering not keeping him next season is one of the reasons why he's pushing for this season. Face off against Ottawa. 3-2 win. Another overtime one. That's going to be... it's not what we want. Southern with his first, and then Svoza with his first as well. And then getting goals from Demidov and Stenberg. Not too bad. End up going up 2-1. I don't know why Chabot would be shooting. I know he does sometimes in real life though, but still, I'm sure they have forwards that can probably do just as good, if not better. So 4-2. Everyone's somewhat competitive here. And I know it started off last season kind of like that, but having a whole bunch of teams 4-2 is not ideal. 4-1-1 as well for Penguins, but I feel as though it's just going to shift a whole hell of a lot over the first at least 20 games as well. Face off against Dallas here. Dallas is 6-3-1, and we managed to win 8-2. So the West isn't necessarily the best there. Tippett, Frost, and Ribkin getting on the score sheet. Southern, Drysdale, and Luchenko before Michkov and Tippett getting goals as well in the third. Dallas is 4-3-1, so I guess it includes some games in the preseason. I find that kind of odd. So 7 games, 5 wins, 2 losses. We're just trailing Pittsburgh there, and Rangers with 12 games so early on is... There must be so many back-to-back games. Kind of leave it as is. Demidov now firmly on the second line on the left wing, so Benson now dropped down to fourth line. 5-4 win at home and overtime again. Misa with the second, Frost, and then Misa with his third before Michkov scoring his fifth, and same thing with Tippett. I think as soon as Michkov gets his point, Tippett's like, all right, I have to match this kid. Unless they think that they're gonna have to get rid of me, so I think Michkov should be able to get this rolling. 5 goals in 8 games is definitely a start that we want. Not enough to end up popping up on the league leaders, but good enough for me. Ginla's now sitting, Powell's sitting, so we'll keep this going against Carolina here. 7-0. Wow. Demidov with his second, Forster with his second, Benson finally getting his first, and then Demidov and then Barkey with 2 and 3, and then Demidov with his fourth in the third. But 7-0 is definitely a good result there against Carolina. Carolina 5-5 through 10 games. Spencer Knight already with 6 wins on the season. Wolf with 8 though. That's kind of wild. We do face off against St. Louis and Pittsburgh, so we'll probably end up leaving things after that. Change. Oh, I'll change it again. and we'll kind of rock with it as much as we can, but I do know that we do have to switch it with goalies. I'm going to get into the habit of just leaving things kind of as is for the most part. Unless we need to change things, we won't. Back-to-back shutouts, though. Drysdale with his third, and Luchenko with a short-handed for his fifth. Gill, Michkov, and Forster getting on the score sheet as well. Now we head to Pittsburgh. This one will mean a lot for us. If we can manage to get a win here, we can stretch our lead here. Now Rangers firmly at the bottom, 6 and 8. Man, they're never going to recover. Toronto also 2 and 7 and 1 to start things off. I wouldn't have expected that. So I think the only thing that we're probably going to change... Oh no, Tippett might have to switch. And we have to switch our goalie here. And then we'll move probably Tippett to the... Put him towards the third. So he's not expected to do as much. See if we can manage to win here. 6-2 win. That's exactly what I like to see. Michkov with 7. Luchenko with his 7th. And then Powell with his first before Michkov scores a shorthanded. Surprised he's on the power kill there. And then Creston with his third goal of the season. Luchenko now with 20 points though. Wow, that's awesome. 13 assists, so definitely assisting Michkov for sure. Does put us with 9 and 2, so the only 2 losses that we have are against Utah. Which means in the league we are currently first, and Minnesota Wild tied with us as well. But our goals for and goals against, there's a huge difference than it is with Minnesota, that's for sure. Also, Flames could even it up with us. They could even pull forward, but I like to be optimistic and say that they don't. And then towards the bottom, you do have the Leafs, LA Kings, the Knights, and Predators. Surprisingly, Predators are there as well. They had a decent season last season. So through 10 games, Luchenko with 20 points, or it says 11. Did we play? Oh yeah, we played 11. Yeah. Luchenko with 20, Drysdale with 15 points. That's insane. Michkov starting it off with 14, projected to do 103. So hopefully that doesn't slow down. Demidov with 11 and Rybkin with 10. So starting to pull away here with these guys. Tippett still doing 9 points is pretty good so far. Forster proving us right to keep him. Does have 9 points and a 7 plus minus. Svozil surprising with 11 plus minus. That is awesome. 68 grade so far. So we might end up having to extend him. Goalies wise, 10 games for night 2 for Kolosov, 10 starts in 1, 7-2-0 and 2-0, 920 and 945. So Kolosov might have to get a couple more looks throughout this season. But let's jump to the trade deadline and see how well we're doing up to that point. After 63 games in the books, we are currently in first place with 81 points, 40 wins, and just a single overtime loss. We managed to make one trade. I might be hunting for more. We did trade just a 1-for-1 Melanston for Frost. Frost not really doing that great. Like everything kind of suggested he should. I know we did cut his playing time in pretty much half with only 8 minutes, but his grade still showed 60, so we decided to kind of part ways with him. I think the contract definitely played a big deal. He wasn't quite doing what his contract we would have hoped for, but we ended up getting more of a defensive player, at least for the rest of the season. We might even extend him as well. He wasn't doing very well in Carolina, so hopefully he can manage to do well with us. He did start the first game on the second line, but I do see him more as a third, fourth line player, a little bit slower, but I usually like the speed for physicals, and I'm kind of changing it up and at least going for more of a defensive player, more of a up and down winger, two-way forward type deal. Should be pretty good to help out with where we need help with. Currently, Valeno is the only one that we were looking at. Coronado as well, but he's more offensive. I do think having more of a variety is probably the best thing that we could get. Morozov, not too bad. What would it take for him, actually? How's his face-offs are okay. Okay, they want a little bit more than what we want to give. There's no way we're going to do that. So, now it has to go down to whose spot would he take? Now, he's only under a 1-year contract as well, so obviously cap doesn't really matter for us. Don't want to give too big of a prospect. We could give up Bratti. And it looks like it's satisfying them just a little bit. We'll give up Soto as well. And that opens it up just a little bit more. I think probably a pick is deserved. Maybe a 4th rounder. I don't know why it doesn't do that right off the bat. That's a little annoying. So now we're going to have to probably go for a cap dump here. Who's not very... Yeah, we'll go for Matheson. And we end up taking that big contract off their hands. Doesn't even come close to anything. I think we'll put Matheson in the AHL and just put him on waivers. See if anyone ends up grabbing him, but it won't really affect us that much. Those are probably the 2 moves that we end up doing, but we'll... Oh yeah, I forgot that we'll have to at least adjust. I'm surprised... So no one that I recall, I think Kristan ends up getting sent down, which kind of makes sense. He is all offense. He is a good hitter though, and he was 64 grade in 12 minutes, which isn't bad at all. Carson doing decent in the AHL, but save percentage isn't what I would have hoped. And yeah, it does look like Beck is the second best. Let's what he would want in terms of contract. So he'd want a 2-year, $6 million. That's a bit much. If he can play into his contract, maybe we end up doing it. Sanheim is starting to slow down as well. Still good defensively, which is one of the reasons why I did opt to get someone that's more defensive on the forward line, just so we end up having that extra padding in front of the net. But before this game, I will show you where we are in terms of stats. And I did notice a couple things after that I will point out for you. Luchenko is 67 points, 44 assists though. That's definitely a lot, and 16 power play. Owen Tippett with 64 in 58. He will start to regress over the next little while, so we'll definitely have to monitor that. He is looking pretty good though, but I did see a stamina drop by 1, and just because he ended up hitting the age of 30, does start to have a steep decline after around 32 anyways. Michkov with a point per game, he did kind of go on a streak beforehand, but I think it's because the AI ended up setting him up in the wrong position sometimes. We'll have to just monitor the role that they end up giving him. Forster managing to have a career year so far with 45 points, Demidov with 47 and 62. So he looks to have a pretty good year as well on the second line. I do want to see him more on the top line, but I guess we'll have to see next season. Jumping to goalies though. Kolosov with 907 save percentage and Spencer Knight with 902, and then goals against are pretty bad. So 337 is probably one of their worst to date. It's actually pretty close to last year for Kolosov, but the year before was a 264, and then Spencer Knight. Yeah, it's starting to get worse and worse, I guess, as Sanheim ends up aging and we end up losing some players on defense, but Bonk is now filling in and Svozil. So two kind of rookies, I guess, and then even Prudhomme is filling in as well. So we'll do the AI thing again. I think he does better as Dangler, to be honest. Facing off against New York. See if we can manage to get a win here. 6-0. And Tippett and Michkov. See, it just seems like that's what was holding him back, is when he ends up getting put as a perimeter shooter as opposed to a Dangler. Rybkin, Barkey, and Luchenko score, and then Luchenko scores the last one. But 6-0 shutout is pretty good, especially for the debuts of our other players as well. But we'll leave it as is because I think there's a game between, and we'll probably get an email saying it's the last chance. And then we'll take a quick look at who's available and see if we want to actually even upgrade. I don't even know if there's any spots that we can really improve in by not giving up that much. I think that 1-for-1 trade was pretty good for Frost. Now we could go all in for like a Stamkos, but that seems unlikely. How many years does he have? He has 1 year left, so he probably retires after this year anyways. Matthew Knees. I don't really like getting rental players, but we'll take what we can get. See, just out of curiosity, how much it would cost. Oh, it wouldn't cost that much. No. Let's see, we can maybe just give a prospect that's never going to play for us. Just for... Alright, I guess we got Stamkos. And now someone has to get sent down that's on the left wing. I'm not sure who that ended up being. But, oh, Powell. Looks like Powell's going to now get bumped down. I was surprised to see that Ethan didn't jump up. And Adam looking like he's developing pretty good this year. He did play for us in the preseason, but couldn't quite edge out a roster spot. I think next year he's probably primed for it. But 41 wins so far. And it does look like we should be cruising after this. Managed to make 3 trades, which is 3 more than what I thought we were going to do. I do think that our team ended up being a little bit better afterwards, giving up nothing really for it. Yeah. What do they say? I won't name names for the potential deal. We're close to making it. Certainly grab some headlines. Okay. So I'm sure our GM will like that move anyways. Or sorry, our owner. I don't know why I said GM. But the lines look like they're going to be this. I kind of want them as actually on the bottom line, but too many playmakers. Steinberg, what playmaker setup man? Let's do that. Perimeter shooter could be good. Nisa as well as a perimeter shooter. Let's do counter-attacking. Or up and down, actually. Leave it at that. We're not going to try and mess with a lot. We do have Meliston is more of a grinder anyways, so I don't think he's going to really produce for points, so we'll have to look at the grades for him. 5-4 loss, and an OT loss as well. I mean, Beck still scores. Huang, the guy that I was looking at earlier this series, kind of disappointing. That he ends up getting a goal against us. And then Beck's still getting points as well. Gil, Demidov, and then we end up doing nothing. Konecki with the game winner. That is poetic. Konecki doing pretty well this season. 39 goals. So guess they were right about our trade being terrible for that. We did get Zetterlund, and I do think the guy involved in that trade could end up being pretty decent for us. So, I mean, time will tell, but I mean, just with that Konecki deal is not necessarily looking the greatest. 6-3 win here. Luchenko Tippett with 2 there. Stamkos with 2. So Stamkos still got it at 39. But we're going to see in the development that he's going to hit it hard for sure. But I think we'll have to make some adjustments in postseason. But I just don't really want to face Buffalo. Buffalo's the one team that has had our number this whole season. I think we lost 9-1 to them, and I think it was like 7-0 or something. So we end up beating the Rangers. Barkey, Southern, Morozov gets his first for us. Ripken, Tippett, and Barkey all on the score sheet there as well. And we now go against Detroit here. Still at home though. Detroit doesn't look like they're doing that great this season. More of a 500 team, but does look like the West is a bit more competitive in terms of their top teams than ours maybe. So I think other than the top one, it's fairly close everywhere else you look. Face off against Detroit here. Managed to lose 4-0, so we might want to switch up probably our lines just for that. Anytime they get shut out, I definitely think to reset something, because clearly something isn't working, and it makes sense to kind of just adjust it. Maybe even Spencer Knight needs a bit of a rest as well. 3-2 win, so we do bounce back at least. Luchenko and Tippett and even Svenberg. Svenberg was his 15th. He's doing very well with his rookie season. 46 points in 69 games. I mean, this guy could be great. How did we get him? We ended up getting him with our 2nd round pick. He was supposed to be a 1st round pick. So definitely the mock things do kind of make sense as to where they're supposed to be drafted, because he does kind of look like he could be a 1st rounder. I think it was an early 2nd rounder anyways, but definitely getting him a lot later benefited us for sure. Face off against Carolina. Let's just switch up the goalies. Actually, no, let's give him a rest. 7-9. Oof. Okay, Morgan Frost ends up scoring against us. That is terrible. How's he doing so far? Only 3 points, but a 64 grade, not too bad. And then we basically gave up the game in the first and then decided to come back late. Bonk ends up getting a goal, Smith, Luchenko, and then the third is just a nightmare. Misa, Tippett, Southern, and Drysdale before we give up 2. And that's what did it. We tied it at 9, and then tied it at 7, and then we end up giving up 2 to lose it. And I wouldn't say Carolina is that great of a team, so we definitely will shift the lines once more. At least we're good offensively, but our defense is pretty bad this year. It's definitely going to be an area where we're going to have to address next season for sure. I do think we might even buy out Sanheim's contract, but we'll have to see for that. Ripken now a 3.5 star. He's starting to look good. He looks like a decent center. He might even be a top center in our on our team here. No injuries, and this is kind of how it's going to look. I think I'd rather Forster up there. I think Grinder's more so reserved for the bottom 2 lines. But still, 2 playmakers does seem odd. See if we can manage to win this one. Another big scoring loss. That is rough. Not even in overtime. Smith, Stamkos gets 2. Luchenko and Demidov. And then Tippett, Stamkos again. So Stamkos is doing very good offensively, but could be opening us up defensively. And I don't even know if... Yeah, Calgary's also not that great of a team. That is Seems like it's going to be a rough postseason for us. 3-4 loss by 1. Lose again in overtime. Moldenhauer, I do know that player. Surprised that he's now in the NHL. He did play last season, but he's kind of been up and down in terms of the AHL as well. But Bonk, Misa getting goals, and then Bonk again. So when our defenders end up getting the goals, it should be a little bit concerning. We do have a little bit of gap here. We do face off against Dallas, who's also a bottom team. Like, these should have all been easy wins. We do have a decent lead on the second place team, so it shouldn't really cost us. We have 10 games left, but hopefully we can manage to bounce back here. 9-1, we get a big scoring game as well, and we close down defensively. That's what I like to see. Spencer Gill, Tippett, Bonk, and Luchenko getting goals before giving up one, but then Morozov, Tippett with his 40th, and then Stenberg and Luchenko, and even Beck ends up scoring as well. Chicago still not doing anything, so it might be a save that we might look at in the future as well, because Connor Bedard's not doing anything with Chicago, and except for scoring. Like, despite everything, he's still getting a ton of points, but they are just garbage. I'll have to... Yeah, they have at least a lefty. Like, they're still not bad. Their goalie's not even that bad either. They have Sasha as well, Berkeley Catton. So a bunch of decent prospects, but for whatever reason they can't put it together. Just watch, they're going to beat us here. They don't. 5-3 win. We give up the first one before Tippett scores. Smith ends up scoring, and then Luchenko and Michkov. Michkov I haven't seen in the goal column. Oh damn, we end up losing someone now. Stenberg out for day-to-day. Such a promising career. So that does change things up a little bit. But we do go on the road against Ottawa and then Toronto. Both teams doing pretty good. Considers himself lucky. Strained muscle, okay. And yeah, 48 points. Not bad though. He did play most of the season, so can't even fault him at all. I guess we'll end up playing our starters here and then kind of switch it up after. A 2-1 win, so very narrow. Good thing it didn't cost us overtime. Beck ends up scoring, and then Demidov with only his 18th though. I know he's more of a setup man, but just his 18th. Luchenko now hurt. Separated shoulder. Oh my god, okay. A good thing we got other players, because that would have been rough, but it's still kind of rough. We're not going to delay it. We're going to leave it as is. We do face off against Toronto, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit worse for wear here. And who's going to end up filling in for him? Kolosov's going to end up starting. And Stenberg looks like he's back, though. So I don't mind that much. Benson now slots into a third line. Center Morozov is now going to be our top line. 6-3 win there. Stamkos, Ivan, I'm just going to say Ivan because I keep butchering his name. Gill and Stamkos getting goals before Ripken and Stamkos again. Stamkos like lighting it up at 39 is insane. Definitely a good decision to have gotten him on our team. And the gap just keeps widening, so we're for sure going to finish top of our division. Do it again to kind of see if it changed. Yeah, now Ripken's the top and Ivan's the second. Facing off against Toronto again, we do lose 6-2 though. And the lone goals were in the third by Tippett and Drysdale. We do face off against Tampa to... Well, I was going to say to end this, but I don't think it is. Stamkos playing against his former team. And they're currently fighting for a spot as well, so I think they end up getting it because we're not. Yeah, I think Tampa ends up making it and Toronto makes it no matter what. Panthers could contest that, but I kind of doubt it. There's not enough games left. And we'll look at the development report. We'll look at the bottom to kind of see. No one's regressed. Okay, so that's good. And yeah, Torquay looking good. Carbonell okay just in terms of stats. McKinnon not really doing anything. That was kind of more of a dart throw. Ryan Thompson, Demidov on our team, Louis Carlson. So Louis Carlson's looking like a decent center there. More of a playmaker. Agility's pretty good. Like even his physicals look pretty decent. And how did we get him? We ended up getting him with Frege, who's now in the AHL. And Frege is doing okay. I mean, 66 grade is pretty decent. He's not. He's more of a shutdown guy. Maybe he ends up playing for us next season. Face off against Tampa. See if Stamkos can light it up for us. 4-1. Tippett with 2. Barkey with 2, and Michkov. Did he even score? So I'll have to remember that. Doesn't want to score against a former team, so hopefully he manages to do that in the playoffs when we most likely see them, probably the first round. But a win's a win. We face Pittsburgh back-to-back games. And does look like it says Svenberg might be back, but I think he was playing on the bottom line anyways for us. Now he's ready to go, which means he's probably at an 80. The only reason why I keep having to adjust it is mainly because of all the injuries. 4-2 loss to start it off. Tippett with his 45th before Ivan ends up scoring his 12th. But stuck at 101. Demidov now day to day for 6 days apparently. But we'll deal, and Kolosov is going to get the nod here. 3-2 win, so he managed to at least avenge the first loss. Forster with his 11th, Misa with his 21st, and then Beck with his 12th. Beck surprisingly getting points even though I do want to be more defensive. We do eclipse 50 wins, and there's 2 games left to kind of add to it, but I don't think we can chase Montreal. Montreal looks like they're primed to be at the top of the conference. Leave it as is, actually. And we lose 2-1 in regulation, only goal being Spencer Gill. And obviously we'll change it up for the Carolina game at the end. Now Carolina won't end up doing anything, so they can't make the postseason. And yeah, it does look like we're going to face Toronto actually in the first round. Hopefully Demidov is back. So face off against Carolina for the last game. Managed to win 4-3 in shootout. Go down 2, then Stenberg gets a goal. Michkov gets his 36th, and then Stenberg gets his 18th. Jesus, that is a long shootout. Prudhomme ends up getting the game winner. No way. How did this happen? So Terrence Smith and Artemonov end up getting goals. Poirier ends up getting one for them, and Tippett gets the first one for us. So crazy. That's a lot of players. I'm not used to seeing that. Does finish us off at 105 though, with 51 wins. A decent amount more than second place. It does look like Demidov is ready to come back. So we'll take a look. Tippett actually in the goal scoring hunt, but 72. Wow. Jesus. Draisaitl at 33 with 72 goals. That is insane. Edmonton's scary. Dard getting 55, but they're teetering towards the bottom. Cole Caulfield leading the league with McDavid and Draisaitl and Bedard, Matthews. Kaprizov's always up there. And then even Aho at 31. And then McKinnon, even though they want to get rid of him. I never understood that. So in terms of the league, we do finish second in the league which seems kind of shocking. Goals for 354, that is massive. Goals against, at least we managed to keep it close with a lot of the other teams. An 81 goal difference. Our home record is 28, 11, and 2. And then on the road is where we need to improve. 4-0 in shootouts, but that's not going to help us in the postseason. Ending this off, we have Tippett with 88, 45 goals, 43 assists. So pretty split on what kind of a player he is, but definitely goal scorer should be on his resume. Michkov with a point per game, a little bit less than the last 2 seasons. I don't think it's for concern. I think we make the adjustments and he's still kind of growing anyways. Not at his full potential yet. Drysdale with 65 and 81. Ripken with 57 and 82 games. Managed to play the full season. Smith also looking good, playing the full season. Managed to get the same points as last year though, with I think a little bit more ice time. Demonov with 53. So ties exactly with what he did last season. I want to see what happens when we put him on the top line though. Forster with 52 there, 41 assists, so massive improvement from last season. Stenberg with 51 in his rookie season, 33 assists. He did find some area on the power play as well. And Barkey playing his contract exactly how we want, 49 points. As being like a third line left wing is very good. Misa with 47, that is groundbreaking to what he did last season. Morozov, when he was with us, 15 points is pretty good as well. We'll take a look at, actually, where's Stamkos? Stamkos with us was almost a point per game. So hopefully that shows up for the playoffs. And goalie-wise, 907, 902. So pretty much the same as before. Goals against still pretty high, I would say. But hopefully that fixes for next year. 38 and 20. Usually it's split up between overtime losses. Yeah. But taking on a little bit more this season. He played 3 more games, but 2 less losses is not the way that we want. And Klosov ended up getting 13 wins in 8 games. In 8 losses, 2 overtime losses. A little bit better than last year for sure. So he might end up having to stick with us, but I do know that Carson's definitely chomping at the bit. I think we might even have to start Carson next year, just in terms of spending that much for a goalie. But we'll look at the awards, see if there's anything that we might get. I kind of doubt it. And nothing yet. Calder. So Betcher with 52. That he looks like goal scoring. He's 25 though. I feel so that should factor in just at least a little bit. And Sundberg with 47 points in 74 games. 51. It's going to be a toss-up who ends up winning it. Nothing pops up here either. Michkov with the Mark Messier. Again, I don't think he's won it yet. Has he? All-Star game? Nope. And has not won that yet. Oh, it looks like it's going to be Tampa. Or no, Toronto. Sorry. I don't know why I looked at that wrong. So we end up facing Toronto. I thought we would have played Tampa. Either way, that doesn't make sense. We'll have to take a closer look at how the standings ended up ending. Yeah, I don't know how we're playing them. Yeah, we didn't finish top. We should be facing Toronto. Oh, we are facing Toronto. Oh my god, what's wrong with me? Yeah, so Toronto ended up finishing better, so that makes sense. I'm just crazy. Minnesota and St. Louis, Winnipeg and Utah. Utah surprisingly in the postseason. Same thing with San Jose and Edmonton. A lot of new faces. But Vancouver is going to have a tough time on their hands, but they managed to make it to the finals last season and win. So maybe it happens again this season. And then Columbus and Islanders, two new faces as well. I think Buffalo's going to beat Ottawa though, and Montreal's definitely going to beat Tampa. And let's look at the lines here. Perimeter shooter, I'll leave it at that for now, but we'll change it up if we have to. And to summarize our season with Toronto, we managed to lose the first one, win the second one, and then lose the third one. So it's going to be a toss-up whether or not we're going to be able to win this one. But if history tells us anything, we should have a good chance. So game 1 in Philly, 6-2 win. And Beck gets the first goal. Smith, Stamkos, and Beck again before Michkov getting 2 at the end there. 6-2 win there. Not too bad, not too bad. Tampa Bay up 1-0. That is rather shocking. I did say when they end up winning the first time that they're not going to end up winning, or they probably won't win again. So it's definitely destined for us to face them. Game 2, 6-3, so more of the same. Demidov getting his first, Ripken with his first, and Sanheim and Sotheran and Tippett and Barkey all getting their first as well. 2-0 series lead is what I like to see. We go to Toronto now, and hopefully we can manage to get the sweep. We haven't done a sweep yet this whole series, so it'd be very nice if we can manage to get that in Toronto. 3-2, so we're on our way. Forster with 2. And then Forster with 3. So Forster lone offense this game does lead us 3-2. Or 3-0 in the series. Edmonton up 2-1, so I guess I was right at least in terms of that. Prudhomme suspended. And now we have to adjust. I was hoping we didn't have to. But looks like we're forced to. And Minnesota up 3-0 against St. Louis. And Edmonton. Looks like all the lower seeds are winning. And then here, Columbus looks like they're going to sweep. Islanders, crazy. And Ottawa up 3-0. And then Montreal up 2-1. So managed to avenge that first loss. Facing off against Toronto at home, or sorry, away from home. Let's see if we can manage to get the sweep. We do. Our first sweep. That's exciting. Leo Carlson on their team, though. How do they manage that? No way. For a 6th round pick. Oh my god, that's garbage. That just left a bad taste in my mouth. His contract's $5 million. That is just wild. So Stamkos, Benson, Barkey getting on the score sheet in the first. Stenberg getting his first, and then Stamkos getting his third, which does cruise us through. Now it doesn't really matter who we face. I think we'll have a good chance against Columbus. Columbus sweeps as well. And I mean, with the huge disparity of wins, we should be able to win that relatively easy. Edmonton wins 4-1, so it won't be a repeat champion, that's for sure. Winnipeg wins 4-2, so fortunately for Utah, they're out. And starts us off with Ottawa up 1-0. End up looking at it. Winnipeg managed to pull through, and Edmonton managed to make it look easy. Now LA knocked out Sharks as well, and Columbus swept, and then Montreal won 4-1, but are now down 1-0. So how long is Prudhomme out for? Probably 5 games? 2 games remaining? So we'll switch this up. Spencer Gill now playing. Instead of Bonk throughout the season. We play them a lot. 5-4 win, 4-1 win, 6-2 loss, 7-3 win, and 2-1. So just a slight edge of winning. That 6-2 is definitely going to haunt us there for sure. And their coach is Nicholas Backstrom. Find that rather interesting. Let's see if we can manage to get game 1 out of the way here. 4-3 win. I was going to say probably overtime too. Tippett gets 2 in the first. Smith gets his second in the second. And no one ends up scoring after that. And then Barkey gets the shorthanded winner in overtime 1. Edmonton leads 1-0, and so do we. Winnipeg up 1-0. Tied now by Montreal, but Winnipeg looks like they're primed to make it far this season. Game 2, 5-4 win in regulation this time. Tippett gets a goal, Stenberg, Ripken, and Demidov getting goals there as well. Stamkos getting his 4th. I haven't seen Michkov other than the first game of the series, so hopefully he can manage to do something there. At least turn it up. Prudhomme's now back, so that's good. Simon Martin looking like he's going to be good as well. 4.5 now. And he was supposed to be the 5th overall, so every team's eating their words when we got him at like 30. And now let's look. Stamkos acceleration down 1. And then not Mike Matheson, but that doesn't really matter. And we won't change things up until we're lined up against them, because I think people might get tired as well. So LA managed to at least tie it up. And Anderson's their captain. Never would have thought. At least our jersey sales are selling. I think we've only ever had one at the top. Game 3 here. Now going to Columbus. Managed to win 1-0. Spencer Gill. So only in the first, Spencer Gill, Ivan, and Stamkos getting on the score sheet there. See if we can manage to make it 2 sweeps in a row. That'd be insane. And definitely be pretty good for us. Luchenko looks like he's coming back. That'll be exciting. It does look like he could be back this game. Let's see. Game 4, can we get the double sweep? And we do. 6-2 win. Ripken, Ivan, and Drysdale before Luchenko getting his 1st. Thank God. Michkov getting his 7th assist. So he is still present. That's good. And does look like a split between them. LA's has the lead. I feel as though I'd rather play LA. And it looks like we're facing Canadians. Former team that we ended up playing with last season that we had tremendous success with. So it's going to be pretty wild to see how this ends up going. Minnesota ends up beating Winnipeg, so unfortunately Winnipeg doesn't get a chance at winning a cup, which they haven't in their whole existence. So it's LA, Minnesota. If Minnesota ends up making it, then there is a chance at a new champion. Playing off against Montreal, we do start as a lower seed though. How the season worked out, managed to win the first game, lose the second game, and then win the third. So it's relatively split. And obviously, that's just off the surface. Hopefully, we can manage to get the first one out of the way, and we lose 4-2. Michkov scoring his 3rd, and Owen Tippett getting his 5th, but not enough. See if we can even it out at least. And then get 2 more at home. So if we can manage to at least do that, we should have a good chance at winning the series. But if we go down 2-0, it's not necessarily the best start. Tippett with the only goal scorer in the second, and then Misa and Michkov getting it late. But garbage time minutes didn't really matter. The game is already away. LA up 2-0 as well. Got to change things up. No, Demidov's going to play there. Stamkos should never be there. Going to swap that up. No, Ripken should be there as well. Smith, Drysdale, Southern, Gill. So it doesn't even look like we have oh, I forgot his name. Sanheim playing. Stamkos with his 5th, Barkey with his 4th, Drysdale gets 1, and then Stenberg, Morozov, and Svozil all in the 3rd to manage to get the victory here. We're not going to pay attention to that, but now we end up getting a chance here to tie it up. LA now up 2-1. See if we can manage to do the same thing. Let's go tie this up. Another 6-3 win. Stamkos with his 6th. Ivan with his third, Tippett and Svozil before Forster getting the last one. Other side 2-2. And LA up 3-1. So we could play LA, but we'll have to win at least one game away from home here. See if we can do it now. And 4-1 loss, we do not. Barkey with the lone goal. We're not even going to look at the rest. Cole Caulfield destroyed us. See if we can tie it up and force a game 7. I am going to switch it up. Didn't know Misa was hurt. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Game 6. 5-3 win. So we force a game 7. Stenberg, Michkov, and Tippett before Demidov and Tippett score again. But Cole Caulfield with 12 in the postseason. Have to see his stats here. It's only his second postseason. Or third postseason, sorry. 22 points though. Jesus, he is definitely making it difficult for us. But Michkov leading the way. We now have to win away from home here. And as Misa is available. And they do put him in. Powell can be the odd man out. I do want Stamkos on that third line. I think it's a little bit better. And let's see if we can manage to get the win away from home here. Fingers crossed. And we do. We managed to win 5-2. Michkov, Smith, and Luchenko in the first. And then Demidov and Luchenko in the third. Luchenko being instrumental to the success of the season for sure. See how he's doing so far in the playoffs. He's only played 8 games, 8 points. Definitely what we needed. As soon as he came back, it just made things make sense. So we do manage to make it to another final here, and our opponent will be probably LA. If it didn't show up already. And yeah, it looks like it's LA. I don't even think we played LA so far this season, but we'll keep the same line that we had going to the other game. And let's see, we managed to play them and beat them both times, so this should be a foregone conclusion, even though it never is. But let's see if we can manage to get game 1 out of the way. We are the higher seed, and we lose the first game 4-2. So we'll have to change things up for our matchup against them. Tippett and Prudhomme with the only goals there, respectively. 4-2 still something that you can easily come back from. But looks like we'll have to at least go on a streak and win 2 straight if we're primed to end up winning this. Nothing ends up changing, but Sanheim hasn't played, so he's just not cut out anymore. It looks like. Demidov on the second line still managed to, let's see, game 2, 3-1. That is not what we want. Ripken scores first, but that's all she wrote. LA just destroying us defensively, so defense beats offense for sure. And let's hope for a different outcome here. See if we can win away from home. 5-3, at least make it 2-1. Smith and Michkov getting on the score sheet before Beck, Luchenko, and Southern all getting nods there. Let's see if we can manage to tie it up here. In LA, we'll keep the same lines that we had before. 4-2 loss, so we're down 3-1. Luchenko with the goal there, and then Smith with a goal there, but didn't seem to matter. So we're down 3-1. We need to win 3 straight. It has been done before. And it says Misa ahead of schedule, but I guess the injury's really affecting us. We'll leave it as is. Actually, we'll change it up just before. We'll go now to LA, or go home, sorry. So if we end up losing, we'll lose in front of our home crowd. And let's see if we can manage to get the win here. Demidov still on the second line. But let's see if we can manage to win at home here. 6-2 loss, so we end up losing rough. Only really producing a handful of goals though. Ivan with his 4th, and then Southern with his 3rd. So unfortunately, we do end up losing that one. Let's take a look at how well we did in the postseason, though, before we end up jumping off. Yeah, I mean, Tippett was the lone bright side with Michkov, but after that, it started to kind of fall quickly. Smith, Ripken, and Barkey still doing pretty good, and Beck surprisingly doing very well. How'd he end the season with a 63 grade? What does he want? Does he still want something unrealistic? 6 million over 2 years. I'll have to sit and think about it, but he did do pretty good for us. I do think we have some prospects coming up as well. Looking at the depth chart, yeah, Benek might even play. Valentini might even play for us as well. Christian did start it off, but I feel as though there could be a shift, and some people might improve throughout this off season as well. I didn't take a look at the goalies, so before I forget, let's see how well they did in the postseason. 906 save percentage. 319 kind of tells it all. So 13 and 7. Unfortunately, we end up losing, but that's all she wrote. There is a chance that I might not be able to post another video after this one. I'm coming down with something, it seems like, so I'm going to try and muster through. But there might be 1 day or 2 days that I don't end up putting videos. But hopefully you guys like this. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And thank you for watching. Until next time.